What's up? I'm David Van Dyke. This is polyrhythmmusicllc, and welcome back to another video. First off, I want to say thank you so much for the last video I did, the 3 tuner tips. If you tuned into that, if you didn't, I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you so much for all the love we got from that, because that was insane. You guys have given such great tips. That's what I love about this community so far, is I try to put out videos that are actually helpful or something you may not have heard of, but then the comments get going and suddenly there's this flood of information that, like, I learned so much, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So thank you so much for that. Now, what are we going to do today? Well, I was thinking, and I'm gonna say up front, like, this video is gonna be very triggering to people, some people. It's gonna be very upsetting. I'm getting ready to do something horrific, and if you can't stomach these types of things, I totally understand. But today we're gonna focus on setting up your amp. And when I first decided to do this, I broke out my, all single coils. I wanted to try to replicate, somebody first getting into guitar. Maybe you get one of these kits for Christmas, or you go to a pawn shop and you grab a guitar, and explain how to go about setting your amp up. But then I realized I'm playing through a Marshall JBM 215C. So that's not very realistic, because Marshalls are fairly easy to set up. Higher end amps usually are. And then it hit me, well, if I'm going to show how to set up an amp, why don't we do something different? So, setting up my Marshall, not going to do it. Instead, I'm going to move over here, and I have a 15 watt little practice amp, and it's a line 6 Spider 4 15. Because that's more realistic in my mind, and I really want to show how do you get a good sound out of your amp. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to set up this line 6 and see if we can get it to sound somewhat decent. It's a practice amp. Oh, and I just realized my Spider is blown, I believe. Is it blown? It's been in the closet for a while, so we'll see. I think it is, though. I think there's the speaker's blown. But single coil, line 6 Spider 4. Wanted to make this as realistic but challenging as possible. So there's going to be a lot of talking in this video, unfortunately, but there's a lot to cover and explain. So thanks for coming along. I'll try to keep it as short as I can, but we got to hit some fundamentals. So first things first, when you're setting up your amp, you have to decide, what are you setting it up for? And what I mean by that is, what type of music do you play? Because everything can affect it. Your tuning, what string gauges you're running. All these things can play into how you set your amp up. Are you going to run pedals? Or are you just going to use the onboard effects? What are you, all these things play a role. So I'm going to try to be more transparent about what I'm doing, so that way you'll have some kind of frame of reference. So first things first, I'm running a pedal board. I'm not going to use many effects. I'm going to use my noise gate pretty much, and that's it. And we're just going to see if we can get a decent sound out of the Spider. I'm not going to go for 8-string setup, Meshuggah type stuff. But let's see if we can go like a decent clean that can handle a little effect. Maybe I'll throw my tube screamer on. That's a possibility, just to give us some distortion. We'll probably just use the amp distortion though. But let's see if we can get this to sound decent. Again, I know I'm stacking the deck against me, but that's what we do here. We do things because they're hard, not because they're easy. So, here we go. So I'm going to roll some volume off. Very twangy, to be expected. Alright, so now for the heinous part that I know it's going to trigger you, it's going to upset you, and that's fine, but know that we're going to get through this together. So here we go. Warning, 3, 2, 1, here comes the triggering thing. Oh yeah. Oh, it's so nice to do that from time to time. So yeah, I know, what am I doing? Am I crazy? No, I'm not crazy. So let's start zeroing everything out. Okay, now we've zeroed out our channel volume. We're gonna need a little volume. Oh, my luck with this line 6, these spider amps, it'll probably sound great zeroed out. Okay, so alright, so starting here, that is completely zero out across the board, clean channel. Now, the way I personally like to do this, because another thing you need to think about is where do you normally play versus where your amp is. And what that means is if you turn your amp on and it's in the corner of the room, and then you normally stand in the middle of the room, you want to be there to hear what the amp is sounding like. You also want to put some volume as to what the volume's normally going to be and how you're playing. So if you play with your volume cranked up, then, you know, because you're gigging or whatever, you're going to need to set your amp up at that volume. Now, are these rules that, like, you have to follow them or people are going to come down? No, of course not. Find your own way to do it. I'm just giving you a starting point. And I think Tim even brought this up in a video as well. He does it very similar as I do, or I do it the very similar way he does. I don't know Tim, so, but we do it the same way. That's the point. I digress. So, you're going to want to try to be where you are. So the way I like to do it is usually I get a friend. I have a buddy of mine who usually, when I'm setting amp up, helps. And I'll stand or sit wherever I normally am at. And then he'll, you know, adjust. And basically all we're going to do is we're going to start at the bottom. And you're going to start turning a knob, okay? And you'll hear, like right now the amp sounds very closed off. So right about there, and it was very slight, very subtle. You may not have even heard it on the cameras, but in the room you could hear it. You'll hear the amp kind of open up. Now I'm on bass right now. I'm adjusting my bass. But see how it's not so closed off? And we're sitting at about 10 o'clock. And for those of you that are new and don't understand, I have a lot of newbies on my channel, and welcome, come on, let's go. When we refer to settings, you hear 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever, it just, all that's saying is think of your dial as a wall clock. So 10 o'clock, we're here. And then you're just going to repeat, really. I mean, I would say that when you're setting your amp up, make sure you're playing every string. You need to know, because You don't want to do something on the bass side and throw off your treble side. You need it all to blend. So now we go to the mid. And again, I turn till I hear the amp open. And then once I hear it open, that'll be the next step. We'll discuss that in a minute. So, now the treble. And I mean, I'm fairly pleased with that. That mid's a little wonky, but and why do I keep repeating the same riff? Because I want to hear the changes. So I'm just going to play the same thing over and over and do the same. You know, it can be anything. It could be... could be anything. It's just... that mid still sounds a little choked off to me. Better. So basically, and all we're doing here is we're just gaining a reference point. We're getting a starting point. Okay, you can do this in 30 seconds. But I'm just wanting everything to kind of open up a little bit. Now I can start adjusting and fine-tuning. Okay, so now I want to check the distortion. I'm going to use the onboard distortion. That's the only one on this line 6 thing I think I ever used was the metal. So we'll press metal, and let's see if this works there. Good. It's not perfect. It's not going to be. It's a line 6 Spider 4 15. It's not going to be perfect, but this is a quick way to gain a reference as to what your amp needs and what will get you close to the sound you want. And this is where you start fine-tuning. You start bringing your pedal board into play. You start tweaking on that. It can be a time-consuming process, and again, it can go faster. If you've got a friend, get them to turn knobs. Zero everything out. Don't be afraid of it. You can turn stuff back. If you love the way your amp sounds right now, but you want to try something else, write everything down. Take a picture. That way you know where everything's already at. But I guarantee you, and anybody that gigs, anybody that plays guitar and has to go out and change locations will tell you, your amp sounds great in your room, but the second you leave your room, it sounds totally different. So this is a quick way to gain reference points to find a decent sound. Then you can go in and fine tune. You can do this in under a minute. So I just wanted to make this video real quick. I've got other stuff coming that's being edited and things right now, but I wanted to get something up for you guys. You've been so great supporting us here. And I've got a couple big announcements coming real soon. We're liquidating the last bit of our inventory. And we're going to be doing some like cool seller finance stuff, things like that. So if you can't afford gear, this might be a way for you to get in on some gear at a good price or at least that you can afford. So yeah, we've got custom shop guitars coming up. There's a lot going on and a lot coming through, and it's thanks to you guys. You guys have been amazing. I hope this helps. I really do. If you have any kind of questions or anything, leave them in the comments. Shoot us a message, polyrhythmmusicllc at Gmail, or all the socials, polyrhythmmusicllc. Again, I really hope this helps. I hope this is a way to give you some reference and some guidance to how to get a quick amp set up. That way, you know, you can then take it from there. I know a lot of people are kind of scratching their head like, well, how do I get my amp to sound better? Well, maybe you need to zero out and start over. Don't be afraid of it. We all have to do it. It's no big deal. See? So thanks again, guys and gals. We'll see you back next week, maybe later this week. Yeah, but I appreciate all the support. You guys have been amazing. I'm overwhelmed with how wonderful you've all been. Thanks for joining our community, and I will see you next time. Later.